The night that changed everything. The rain pelted against the floor-to-ceiling windows of the penthouse as Vikram Kapoor swiped through the quarterly reports on his tablet. Thunder cracked, causing him to glance up from the screen. He hadn't planned to return from Singapore so soon, but the typhoon warnings had accelerated his departure. At 36, Vikram had built Horizon Technologies from a small startup into one of India's most successful tech firms. The penthouse in Mumbai's exclusive Worli district was just one symbol of his success, a success that had come at the cost of personal connections. Divorce papers signed 2 years ago had seen to that. Stretching his tired muscles, Vikram decided to grab water from the kitchen. The penthouse was eerily quiet at 2 a.m. As he stepped into the hallway, lightning illuminated a figure curled up on the floor beside a basket of neatly folded clothes, Prisha Sharma. His newest household employee lay sleeping on the marble, using her thin cardigan as a makeshift pillow. Her face, usually composed into careful politeness, was relaxed in sleep, though her brows remained furrowed as if even unconsciousness couldn't fully release her from worry. Vikram stood frozen, unsure how to process the scene. Why would she sleep here instead of the staff quarters he'd specifically designed for comfort? "Prisha?" he said quietly, crouching beside her. She startled awake, dark eyes widening in alarm as she scrambled to her feet. "Sir, I'm so sorry, I was finishing the laundry and—" "Why are you sleeping in the hallway?" Vikram interrupted, his voice deliberately gentle. "There's a comfortable room for you downstairs." Prisha smoothed her rumpled salwar kameez, avoiding his eyes. Radhaji's sister arrived unexpectedly from the village. She needed somewhere to stay until finding work, so She hesitated. "I told her she could use my room. It's just temporary." Vikram felt an unfamiliar tightness in his chest. He had barely spoken more than a few sentences to Prisha in the 3 months she'd worked for him, yet here she was, giving up her own comfort without complaint. "And this has happened before?" he asked, noticing the practiced way she'd arranged herself on the hard floor. "Only a few nights," she answered quickly. "It doesn't affect my work, sir." "That's not my concern," Vikram said. "Follow me." He led her through the penthouse to a guest suite that overlooked the Arabian Sea. Prisha hesitated at the doorway, clearly uncomfortable. "Sir, I can't." "You can and you will," Vikram said firmly. "This room is unoccupied. Use it until we sort something else out." Her hands twisted nervously at the fabric of her dupatta. "What about Radha Ji?" I'll speak with her. This isn't up for discussion, Prisha." After she reluctantly entered the room, Vikram returned to his study, but the financial reports no longer held his attention. Instead, he found himself thinking about the 26-year-old woman who had been invisible to him until tonight. His household manager had hired Prisha 3 months ago. She'd come from a small town in Maharashtra and, according to her employment file, supported her grandparents and younger brother back home. What else had he failed to notice about the people who kept his life running smoothly? Outside, the storm intensified, rain lashing against glass and concrete. Vikram sent a message to his personal assistant. "Double Prisha Sharma's salary effective immediately, and arrange for proper accommodation for all household staff." He set down his phone and watched the Mumbai skyline disappear behind sheets of rain. Something had shifted tonight, something he couldn't quite name but could definitely feel. For the first time in years, Vikram Kapoor had seen someone truly, and it left him wondering what else he had been missing all this time. Unseen. Worth, the following week, brought a subtle shift to the rhythm of Vikram's household. After finding Prisha asleep in the hallway, he had instructed his estate manager to convert an unused wing of the penthouse into enhanced staff quarters. More significantly, he'd begun to actually notice Prisha. He observed how she arranged fresh jasmine flowers in his study each morning, placing them where the morning light would catch their fragrance. He noticed how she always prepared a small plate of sliced fruits and kept it in the refrigerator for him to find when he returned late from the office. These weren't part of her assigned duties. They were small kindnesses she performed without recognition. One evening, Vikram returned earlier than usual and found Prisha in the library, carefully dusting each book individually rather than simply running a cloth along the shelves. "You're being very thorough," he commented, causing her to nearly drop the volume in her hands. "Sir, I didn't expect you back so soon." She quickly set down the book, a worn copy of Gabriel Garcia Marquez's Love in the Time of Cholera. "Do you enjoy reading?" Vikram asked, nodding toward the book. Prisha's eyes widened slightly at the personal question. "Yes, sir. Whenever I can. And Marquez? That's not light reading." A small, genuine smile appeared on her face, the first he'd seen. "My literature professor in college recommended his work. I never had the chance to read this one until now." "College?" Vikram leaned against the doorframe, genuinely curious. His staff manager had mentioned Prisha had some education, but nothing specific. Her fingers traced the book's spine gently. "I completed 2 years of university in Pune, physiotherapy program." "But you didn't finish?" The smile disappeared. "My grandfather's medical bills became too much. And then my brother needed school fees." She straightened her shoulders. "It's fine. Many people don't get even that opportunity." Vikram wanted to ask more, but his phone buzzed with an urgent call from his CFO. By the time he finished the call, Prisha had moved on to another room, the moment lost. The next morning, Vikram found himself lingering over breakfast, something he never did. His curiosity about Prisha had only intensified. What circumstances had brought a woman with university education to work as household staff? The salary increase he'd authorized would help her family. But something about her situation nagged at him. When Prisha entered to clear his dishes, he noticed dark circles under her eyes. "Are you still giving up your room?" he asked directly. She hesitated. "No, sir. Radha's sister found a position with a family in Bandra." Prisha carefully stacked his plate and cup. "Thank you for the new accommodations." "And for," she faltered, "for?" "The salary increase. It was very generous." "It was fair," Vikram corrected, "and long overdue." Later that day, during a board meeting, Vikram found his mind wandering. His company's mission statement, "Technology that enhances human potential," stared back at him from the presentation slide. Yet he'd never considered the human potential right under his own roof. That evening, he asked his driver to make a detour on the way home. At a bookstore in Colaba, Vikram purchased a collection of Garcia Marquez's works and several other classics. He left them in a wrapped package outside Prisha's door with a simple note. "For your library." Over the following weeks, Vikram began eating dinner at home more frequently. He told himself it was to reduce the late nights at the office. But truthfully, he looked forward to the brief interactions with Prisha. Sometimes, when she served dinner, he would ask her opinion on the books. Her insights were thoughtful, revealing an analytical mind that surprised him. One night, during a power outage caused by monsoon rains, Vikram found Prisha in the kitchen lighting candles. Instead of retreating to his study with his laptop as he normally would, he asked, "Would you join me for tea?" Her momentary shock was visible even in the candlelight. "Sir, that wouldn't be appropriate." "I'm not your employer right now," Vikram said. "Just someone avoiding working by flashlight. Besides, I'd like to hear what you thought about 100 Years of Solitude." Hesitantly, Prisha sat across from him at the kitchen island while the rain pounded outside. As they sipped tea in the flickering light, she gradually relaxed, describing her favorite passages with unexpected passion. "You have an excellent memory," Vikram observed. "I had to," she said with a small laugh. "We couldn't always afford textbooks in school, so I memorized as much as possible during library time." When the power returned 2 hours later, Vikram realized they'd talked without pause, about books, films, even his company's latest project. For the first time in years, he'd had a conversation that wasn't about business strategy or investment potential. It felt refreshing. As Prisha stood to leave, Vikram asked the question that had been on his mind for weeks. "Why didn't you apply for a student loan to finish your degree?" She paused at the doorway. "I tried, sir, but my family already had debt from my grandfather's treatment. No bank would approve another loan without collateral." Her voice remained matter-of-fact, without self-pity. "Some dreams have to wait." Long after she'd gone, Vikram remained at the kitchen island, turning his empty teacup in his hands. "Some dreams have to wait," The words echoed in his mind as an idea began to form, one that would change both their lives irrevocably. Dreams rekindled. The prestigious Sharma Institute of Medical Sciences was housed in a gleaming building in Mumbai's education district. Vikram sat in the dean's office discussing the details of a new scholarship program his foundation was establishing. A full scholarship covering tuition, books, living expenses, and a stipend? Dr. Joshi raised her eyebrows. That's extraordinarily generous, Mr. Kapoor. The recipient will still be working part-time, Vikram explained. The stipend ensures they don't need additional employment that might interfere with studies. And this is for physiotherapy students specifically? Vikram nodded. Students who had to interrupt their education due to financial constraints. 2 weeks later, Vikram asked Prisha to join him in his home office. She entered cautiously, clearly wondering if she had somehow failed in her duties. Please sit. He gestured to the chair across from his desk. Is everything all right, sir? She asked, perching on the edge of the seat. Vikram slid a large envelope across the desk. I'd like you to look at this. Prisha carefully opened it and pulled out several official-looking documents. Her eyes widened as she read, then looked up in disbelief. This is an acceptance letter to the Sharma Institute and a scholarship. Her voice trembled. I don't understand. My foundation has established a scholarship for students who had to abandon their education for financial reasons, Vikram explained, trying to sound matter-of-fact. Your previous academic records made you an ideal candidate. But I didn't apply for this. The institute made an exception to their usual process. He didn't mention the substantial donation that had facilitated this exception. Prisha stared at the papers, then carefully placed them back in the envelope. I can't accept this. This wasn't the reaction Vikram had anticipated. Why not? It's too much, and... She hesitated. It feels like charity. It's an investment, Vikram countered. In someone who deserves the chance to fulfill their potential, she shook her head. My family depends on my income. Even with the raise, the scholarship includes a stipend equivalent to your current salary, Vikram interrupted. And you can continue working here part-time with flexible hours around your class schedule. Why would you do this? Prisha asked quietly. You barely know me. The question caught Vikram off guard. Why indeed? Was it guilt over his previous indifference, admiration for her resilience, or something more personal that he wasn't ready to examine? Because talent shouldn't be wasted, he finally said. And because sometimes people need just one opportunity to change their trajectory. Prisha remained silent, her fingers tracing the embossed letterhead of the institute. You told me some dreams have to wait, Vikram continued. I'm simply suggesting that maybe yours has waited long enough. 3 days later, Prisha knocked on the door of Vikram's study. When he called for her to enter, she stood tall, more confident than he'd ever seen her. I've decided to accept the scholarship, she said, but I want to be clear about something. Vikram gestured for her to continue. I'll continue my duties here as agreed, and I'll repay the scholarship amount after I graduate and begin working as a physiotherapist. With interest. That's not necessary. It is to me, she said firmly. I'm grateful for the opportunity, Mr. Kapoor, but I need to know I've earned it. Something in her determined expression made Vikram nod in agreement. Very well, Ms. Sharma. We'll draw up terms that satisfy both of us. As the weeks passed, Prisha's transformation became evident. She arrived home from classes with a new energy, often sharing interesting cases or techniques she'd learned. Vikram found himself looking forward to these conversations, rearranging his schedule to be home when she returned from the institute. One evening, as Mumbai's lights glittered below the penthouse windows, Prisha excitedly explained a new rehabilitation technique she'd learned for stroke patients. The professor said my questions showed unusual insight, she said, her eyes bright with validation. He asked if I'd consider research after graduation. Watching her animated gestures and hearing the passion in her voice, Vikram realized something had shifted between them. The carefully maintained barrier between employer and employee had become permeable. In its place was something undefined but undeniably real, a connection based on mutual respect and genuine interest. That night, lying awake in his bedroom, Vikram confronted an uncomfortable truth. His interest in Prisha had grown beyond benevolent concern. The realization both troubled and exhilarated him. The power imbalance between them made any such feelings inappropriate. Yet he couldn't deny the warmth that filled him whenever she entered a room, or how their conversations had become the highlight of his otherwise solitary life. For now, he decided he would focus on being her supporter and friend. Her education and future came first. Whatever these unfamiliar feelings were, they would have to wait, just as her dreams had waited. But unlike her dreams, Vikram wasn't sure his feelings deserved the chance to be realized at all. Growing together, 8 months into Prisha's education, rumors began circulating within Vikram's social circle. His frequent absences from evening business functions had not gone unnoticed, nor had the presence of an unusually educated housekeeper in his home. At a charity gala, Vikram found himself cornered by Natasha Malhotra, a family friend whose daughter he had briefly dated years ago. "I hear your household help is now attending the Sharma Institute," she said, her tone casual, but her eyes sharp. Such an unusual arrangement. "My foundation sponsors several scholarships," Vikram replied neutrally. "Ms. Sharma happened to be qualified." "How fortunate for her," Natasha smiled thinly. "Though people are talking, Vikram. A single man, a young woman living in your home. People should find better topics of conversation," he said curtly. "Excuse me?" The exchange left him unsettled. He had never considered how the arrangement might appear to others, or how it might affect Prisha's reputation. When he returned home that night, he found Prisha at the dining table surrounded by textbooks and anatomical diagrams, a furrow of concentration between her brows. Her hair was pulled back in a practical bun, a pencil stuck through it haphazardly. Without makeup or her usual work clothes, she looked younger, more vulnerable. "How was the gala?" she asked, looking up with a tired smile. "Tedious," Vikram replied, loosening his bow tie. He hesitated, then asked, "Prisha, has anyone at the Institute questioned your living arrangement?" Her smile faded. "A few classmates have made comments. Nothing I can't handle. What kind of comments?" Prisha carefully closed her textbook. "The kind that assume I didn't earn my place there." Her eyes met his directly. "The kind that assume I'm more than your employee." The blunt assessment hung in the air between them. "I've been thinking," Vikram said slowly. "Perhaps it would be better if you had your own apartment near campus. The foundation could—" "Is that what you want?" Prisha interrupted, her voice quiet but steady. The question caught him off guard. "I want what's best for your education and reputation." "That's not what I asked." For perhaps the first time since they'd met, she was the one directing their conversation. "Are you uncomfortable with me living here now?" Vikram considered his answer carefully. "No. But I'm concerned about how it might affect you." Prisha stood, gathering her books with deliberate movements. "I stopped caring about what others think when I watched my grandfather die because we couldn't afford proper treatment. I'm here to become a physiotherapist who can help people like him. Gossip doesn't change that purpose." Her quiet dignity made Vikram's concerns seem suddenly trivial. "You're right. I apologize," she nodded. But as she turned to leave, she added, "However, if my presence is causing problems for you or your company, I would understand a change in arrangement." "It's not," Vikram said quickly. Too quickly, perhaps. "Please stay." As the seasons changed, so did their relationship. The formal "sir" gradually disappeared from Prisha's vocabulary, replaced by Vikram during their increasingly frequent conversations. Their dinners together became a regular occurrence, rather than a rare exception. On weekends, Vikram sometimes drove Prisha to her clinical rotations, using the time to discuss business challenges he was facing. Her perspectives, untainted by corporate politics, often provided insights he wouldn't have considered. "You should establish a healthcare division," she suggested one rainy afternoon as they drove back from the hospital. "Your AI algorithms could help predict patient outcomes based on treatment plans." "That's not our expertise," Vikram pointed out. "But it could be," Prisha countered. You always say technology should enhance human potential. What greater potential is there than health? The idea took root. Within months, Horizon Technologies had launched a healthcare AI initiative that quickly attracted international attention. As Prisha approached her final year of studies, the undefined nature of their relationship became increasingly difficult to ignore. They moved comfortably in each other's spaces. She would adjust his tie before important meetings. He would bring her favorite tea when she studied late. They existed in a liminal space, more than employer-employee, not quite equals, and something entirely different from friends. The situation came to a head unexpectedly. Prisha had been invited to present her research at a medical conference in Delhi. Vikram had arranged for his company jet to take her there. "That's completely unnecessary," she protested. "I can take a regular flight." "The conference is important," Vikram insisted. "You should arrive well-rested. Is that the only reason?" Prisha asked, studying his face. The question hung between them, weighted with unspoken meaning. "No," Vikram admitted finally. "I want to take care of you." "Is that wrong?" "It's complicated," she said softly. "You've already given me so much. Sometimes I wonder if I'll ever stop being indebted to you." Her words struck Vikram like a physical blow. Was that how she saw their relationship, as a continuous accumulation of debt? "You've never been indebted to me," he said firmly. "Everything you've accomplished has been through your own merit and hard work." "With opportunities you provided," she reminded him. "Opportunities you've more than justified," he countered. "Your research is being presented at a national conference, Prisha." "That has nothing to do with me." She was silent for a long moment. "What happens when I graduate next year? When our arrangement ends?" The question had haunted Vikram for months. "What do you want to happen?" "I don't know," she admitted. "I only know I can't imagine returning to the way things were before." Vikram took a careful step toward her. "Neither can I." The moment stretched between them, filled with possibility and uncertainty. Neither moved to close the remaining distance, but something had shifted irrevocably. They had acknowledged, at last, that whatever existed between them couldn't be contained within the boundaries they'd established. "Take the jet," Vikram said finally, "and when you return, perhaps we should talk about what happens next." Prisha nodded, a mixture of apprehension and hope in her eyes. "When I return," she agreed. As he watched her walk away, Vikram realized they had reached a crossroads. The careful balance they had maintained for nearly 2 years was dissolving. Whatever path they chose next would require courage from both of them and the willingness to reimagine the story that had begun that rainy night in the hallway. Full circle. 3 years after finding Prisha asleep in his hallway, Vikram stood at the back of a crowded auditorium, watching as she accepted her degree in physiotherapy. Her graduation speech reflected the journey she had taken, from a young woman driven by necessity to a healthcare professional driven by purpose. "Healing is not just about restoring movement," she told the audience. "It's about restoring dignity, independence, and possibility. Sometimes the greatest therapy we can offer is the belief that someone deserves more than mere survival." Her eyes found Vikram's in the crowd, a moment of silent acknowledgement passing between them. After the ceremony, he waited while she accepted congratulations from classmates and professors. She had built her own community here, separate from the world they shared at home. He felt a mixture of pride and a strange melancholy, watching her shine in this space that had nothing to do with him. "Dr. Kapoor," she called, breaking away from a group to approach him. "I didn't think you'd make it back from Singapore in time." "I wouldn't have missed this," he said simply. They stood awkwardly for a moment, too many unspoken words between them. In the 3 years of her education, their relationship had evolved in subtle ways. The promised conversation after her Delhi presentation had never fully materialized. Instead, they had fallen into a comfortable pattern of meaningful glances and almost moments, neither willing to disrupt the delicate balance they'd achieved. "I have something for you," Vikram said, handing her an envelope. Prisha opened it carefully, then looked up in surprise. "The scholarship repayment contract with paid in full stamped across it, but I haven't repaid anything yet." "Read the note," he urged. Her eyes scanned the attached letter, widening as she understood. You're offering me a position as head of rehabilitation services at the New Horizon Healthcare Center? Her voice trembled slightly. Vikram, I've just graduated. I'm not qualified to head a department. The center won't open for another year, he explained. You'll spend that time training with the top rehabilitation specialists globally. By the time we launch, you'll be more than qualified. Prisha's face showed a complex mix of emotions. This is another opportunity I haven't earned. That's where you're wrong, Vikram said firmly. This isn't charity or favoritism. The center needs the best, and your research on integrating AI with rehabilitation protocols is exactly what we're building towards. She studied the contract again, her practical nature asserting itself. The salary is too high for a new graduate. It's the market rate for the expertise we need. A small smile played at her lips. You have an answer for everything. Not everything, Vikram admitted. He took a deep breath. For instance, I have no answer for what happens to us now. The directness of his statement surprised them both. For 3 years, they had carefully avoided defining their relationship. Friends, certainly. Mentor and protégé, perhaps, but always with an unacknowledged current running beneath the surface. I've been thinking about that, Prisha said quietly. I've accepted another position. Vikram felt as though the ground had shifted beneath him. I see. At Mumbai General Hospital, she continued, and I found an apartment near there. Each word felt like a carefully placed brick in a wall rising between them. Vikram struggled to maintain his composure. When do you leave? Next week. She held his gaze steadily. I need to know who I am without you, Vikram. Who I can become on my own terms. He nodded, understanding despite the ache spreading through his chest. You deserve that chance. And you deserve someone who comes to you as an equal, not as someone eternally in your debt. Prisha's voice was gentle but firm. Whether that's me or someone else, I don't know yet. But I need to find out. 6 months passed. Vikram threw himself into the development of the Horizon Healthcare Center, expanding the original concept to include a research wing and a charity clinic that would provide free rehabilitation services to patients who couldn't afford them. He had not contacted Prisha, respecting her need for independence. But he had followed her career from a distance, hearing through mutual connections about her innovative work at Mumbai General and her growing reputation in the field. On a cool, December evening, Vikram was working late at the nearly completed healthcare center when the security guard called up to announce a visitor. Dr. Sharma is here to see you, sir. Vikram's heart raced as he instructed the guard to send her up. When the elevator doors opened, Prisha stepped out, looking both familiar and somehow new. She wore a simple professional dress, her hair cut shorter than he remembered, her posture confident. The center looks amazing, she said, glancing around at the state-of-the-art facility. You've created something extraordinary here. We have, Vikram corrected gently. Your research formed the foundation for much of what we've built. They walked through the rehabilitation wing together, Prisha examining the equipment with a professional eye, asking detailed questions about patient flow and treatment protocols. The position is still open, Vikram said carefully as they completed the tour. If you're interested, Prisha turned to face him directly. That's partly why I'm here. I've been offered the position of Director of Rehabilitation Research at Johns Hopkins in the United States. Vikram felt a strange mixture of pride and disappointment. That's an incredible opportunity. Congratulations. I haven't accepted yet, she said. I wanted to see this place first. And... She hesitated. I wanted to see you. They stood in the center's atrium, the Mumbai skyline glittering through the glass walls around them. So different from that rainy night years ago, yet Vikram felt the same sense of standing on the edge of transformation. These past months have been enlightening, Prisha continued. I've built a career I'm proud of, made my own decisions, faced my own consequences. I discovered I'm stronger than I knew. I never doubted that, Vikram said quietly. But I also discovered something else, she said, taking a step closer to him. That independence doesn't mean isolation. That accepting help doesn't diminish strength, and that some connections. Her voice softened. Some connections are worth exploring, even when they're complicated. Vikram felt hope rising in his chest. Are you saying... I'm saying I'd like to consider your offer, Prisha interrupted. Both professional and whatever else might be possible between us, as equals this time. I'd like that, Vikram said, unable to keep the emotion from his voice. Very much, she smiled. The full, unguarded smile he had first glimpsed years ago in his library. I brought you something. She handed him a wrapped package. Inside was a copy of Love in the Time of Cholera, the same book she had been dusting when he first learned about her interrupted education. Open it, she urged. Inside the cover, she had written, To new beginnings, built on mutual respect and equal footing. Some dreams are worth waiting for. Vikram looked up to find Prisha watching him intently. I've missed you, he admitted simply. I've missed you too, she replied. But I needed to become the person standing before you now, someone who can choose you rather than need you. Outside, rain began to fall on Mumbai, echoing that fateful night years before. But this time there was no power imbalance between them, no unspoken barriers, only the honest recognition of two people who had transformed each other's lives. Would you like to get dinner? Vikram asked. There's a new restaurant nearby. Actually, Prisha said with a small smile, I was thinking we could have tea at home, like we used to. Home. The word hung between them, filled with promise. As they left the center together, stepping into the gentle Mumbai rain, Vikram realized that the most valuable thing he had built in recent years wasn't his company or even this new healthcare center. It was the space he and Prisha had created between them, a space where dreams could be rekindled, where barriers could be dismantled, and where two people from different worlds could meet as equals. The hallway that had once revealed her vulnerability had led them both, in the end, to strength they couldn't have found alone.